and in the topic of aportes de las neurociencias en la enseñanza del inglés, I'm going to talk about an article we had that is called From Neurodidactics to Language Teaching and Learning to Emotional Approach. I'm going to talk about this article and give you the key concepts, the reflections I have through this article, and the thoughts I have as a teacher about this. So, we're going to start with neurodidactics in a second language. So, neurodidactics work with neuroscience and didactics, and these modified the method of teaching and learning. And there have been different types of learning acquisitions, such as communicative approach, language acquisition, task learning, competency-driven learning approach, etc. So first of all, we're going to start with neurodidactics from the brain. This is the learning, the ability to store the information in order to be able to retrieve this information when it's necessary to make associations or to apply it in an activity, such as our skills or more abilities we have. So when we have the neurodidactics from our brain establish our skills, our abilities, there's going to be a transfer in the classroom that is called neurodidactics for the classroom. That is the physical activity and recreation that is done voluntarily. It works with reducing the stress, increasing neurogenesis and stimulation on learning. And for the teachers, as us, this helps to encourage and to know what methods or curricular designs are going to work for our students in the classroom. Learning consists of generating new neural networks, that is our memories, from the stimuli we have in interaction with the environment. Our experiences are transformed in neural connections that are linked to our memory, having our brain structure work thanks to the brain plasticity. That is the neural network that is in charge to function in our growth and reorganization. To learning to occur, there must be a new synapses that is generated, and a neuron has to communicate with others through a complex biochemical and an electrical process that generates networks to which informs and transmit through our brain. These neural networks will become more efficient while we are consistently practicing. For example, when we play an instrument, such as the piano, you gain knowledge when you learn the name of the keyboards, and you have to practice and practice to create new music. However, not only practice influences in the generation or proliferation of these networks, but also there's a stimuli we have with the environment, which is the place we have that takes away the learning and works with our emotions and the emotions of our students. Emotions can be placed with the external stimuli, which is the environment, and the internal stimuli, which is our memory or our imagination, which influences the activation of special neural systems affecting the whole organisms. This can be an example like the muscular system in our body. For example, when you don't go to the gym, like in 2 weeks, your body, loses the strength to carry strong weights, but then your body has that memory, so you gain that memory from your body, and you can again carry that weight that you can do the first time you go, once you didn't went like for 2 weeks or more. So talking about motivation and learning process, we have emotions that a factor is that becomes evident when the force of attraction or rejection is activated in the brain. When neurotransmitters are secreted, there is a detection and identification of unpleasant stimuli. It depends of the levels of alertness that blocks the telecortical and corticocortical. It reactivates the brain system and prevents the proper performance of cognitive functions and memory systems. So, such as stressful situations give us the blank mind and having the amygdala hijacked, and this happens to lead a decrease of up to 50% of the linguistic performance, plus having an unpleasant emotions in our body, in our minds, and in our work habit. On the contrary, the brain reacts positively to pleasant stimuli. There is a rise in the secretion of neurotransmitters in different superior areas of the brain that temporarily modifies the way in which diverse neural networks operate. The neurotransmitters with the most significant on this process is linked to the sensation of pleasure, such as dopamine. This produces a vital sensation of pleasure. Activities like physical activities, laughing, social interaction, achievement goals, task, acting kindly, being right, etc., gives a boost to the dopamine to our body. The increase of these neurotransmitters triggers currently the secretion of other neurotransmitters such as acetylcholine. This increases your alertness, focus, memory, and prefrontal cortex exclusive functions. And there is a correlation of neurotransmitter secretions. There is a form called the SA circuit, starting with the secret of dopamine is response to the desire to know if a prediction is correct and the potential reward for being right. This reward allows the brain to secrete acetylcholine, which promotes memorization, and noradrenaline, which keeps the brain focused and prepared the whole organism for action. In response to this satisfaction of a well-done job, the brain secretes serotonin, which regulates the organism to promote its recovery and generates pleasant sensations of calm and relaxations, and collaborates within the memory process in the hippocampus. Now, we are talking about motivation and emotions in language teaching and learning. Motivation, impulses, and triggers, or constitutes of emotions, but not as emotions in the proper sense. Therefore, the conceptions of motivation and emotions are often irrelevant in teaching learning context and are also perceived as two feelings that sometimes seem to express very similar ideas. There is two nonsense here. The motivation is what moves us to perform specific actions because we know that this will please us. And emotion is the reaction generated in the brain that affects the entire organism by disposing it either towards or against those actions. So the first motor for learning is the learner's interest and desire to approach knowledge and enjoy dealing with it, which is related to intrinsic motivation and depends directly on the emotions that is different similarly generates in the brain. We have to teach the learners, and experience mainly must be determined by the teaching method on which the teacher has based on his proposal. Students don't just learn with communicative context with challenges, problem, project, game. It's not enough. It's really important in doing and having an activity and working with the right emotions, having challenges, problems, a project. Having this makes a difference for our students, and not just by speaking or listening. We need to motivate our students to doing something and to give them like that boost to make them feel comfortable and reliable with this learning acquisition. Now we're going to talk about the role of actors. First of all, teaching role. The teachers must be aware of the learning culture of their students, having to identify the profile of the student, that what they're teaching, adapt their proposals, and avoid stressful situations. To create a relaxing classroom atmosphere, gathering common interests, make the students feel involved, make the students feel free to express their thoughts and to have mistakes. This provides a feedback to encourage a self-correction, to have a great administration of the materials that you as a teacher establish in your curriculum, and to have an encouragement interaction among students. This conducts a constant assessment in the students' progress, the emotional state and classroom atmosphere, and to know how and when to make adjustments to your classroom and activities. And we have the learner's role. This one is to make students take responsibility for their learning. to have actively participation in the negotiations, to engage in tasks to make them task riskers and not being afraid to make mistakes. And the most important thing is to adapt. So I think that as teachers, we need to work with emotions in the first place, in second place, and third place every day. I think that students don't acknowledge or don't know how to work with their emotions, don't know how to feel, or maybe they feel like they're not gonna do it. And I think it's important that in our classroom we give our students the methods, the techniques to feel happy, to feel like they can do it. I think that one main problem as teachers is that we stress because maybe our students are talking too loud or not paying attention, and we like give up. So our students see that and like they give up. And I think that we need to acknowledge that each student is different, and we need to know how to apply techniques or activities to give that student the motivation to work and feel happy. So emotional approach goes with the communicative approach, providing a teaching and learning method that works with neuroscience, didactics, and linguistics. The emotional approach understands that if a language is set with the neural networks, teaching should be promoted with an efficiency, and this process can certainly be placed with emotions and not having stressful, blocked process cognitive and implicating learning approaches for the student. It's clear that with the emotions, working with the neuroscience works different, and it implies a very hard response as teachers. But if a teacher knows how to apply his methods, strategies, it won't be hard. It will be easy and will be much easier for the student to gain that knowledge. So finally, I think that working with a second language, such as English, considering the emotions and stress that our students can get, is reliable for our strategies. We need to know when to adjust our activities, when to change something, how and when to make our students do something by their own. It's important to make our students feel comfortable in their classroom, to make them independent to learn another language. And I think that if we consider the emotions our students have, our work is going to be fine, and our students are going to feel very grateful and happy that they are learning something new.